Well, from our last video where we covered the introduction to API request, we are going to continue here while treating some of these basic of RESTful API, and we have everything we had in the previous video. So if you have not yet seen, we have empty folders here, nothing there inside this folder for now, and then it's true we don't have anything. The only file that contains something is our index.js file, and it have some of the importation request that we have made. And let me just declare a variable, and I want to declare a variable of books, so that means it's going to contain arrays of books. And then while we have arrays of books are supposed to have two properties. The first property should be the ID of the book, and I set this one to 1, and the other one is going to be just the name of the book. So let's say this books array is just like a library where we keep the book, or let me say a shelf where I keep some of my book. So it's have the ID of each book and the name of the book. Let me copy this 2 more times, so we're going to be having 3 books in here in my shelf. So now, and that's great. I just need to change the ID to 2, and then find another name to give those books. Trust me, I don't reach much of books, but I can be able to bring out a simple name on my head. Okay, let me say things fall apart. I think that's good. For now, I can just go ahead to change the ID of the third book also, and also find a suitable name for the third book. So we are going to be having just 3 books for now inside my shelf, because I call it shelf. Yeah, so that's good. That's great. uh Previously we are testing the API with all these. When we have this home directory, just a single backslash, we are expecting whenever we send a get request to it, should respond with hello world. And then here we have whenever someone goes to the about, it should respond with hello about. That's what we have here already. So here now I want to change it to books. So I want to, whenever somebody goes to /API/books, it should just respond with the books we have already hard coded at the top. So it should just return those books to the client. So instead of just returning anything, it should return with those books. And for now, let me just remove this. We don't need it for now, before we head over to using it later. So I just want to open up terminal to be able to run this my code here perfectly. So I can just type node index.js to be able to run the code and see if everything works perfectly. So let me hit on enter. Make sure anything you are writing you save. So whenever you see app listening on port 5000, that means your code is running perfectly. And then let me open up my Thunder client to be able to test this API. And I love using this because it's actually very easy to navigate to. So then after this, I can just be able to change the URL. That means the API endpoint at the top. We have the HTTP. It's not the H. I will remove the S, and then instead of client thunderclient.com, I can send localhost, because we are running this code on our local machine. So localhost not 3000 actually. I'm going to use 5000 because it is running on port of 5000, not 3000. So instead of having, I can just say slash API and then slash books, as we have out there in our endpoint. You can see we have here slash API slash books, so it won't be just the home. Let me remove this welcome. We don't even need it. It's not even in our endpoint. So after having this, is get request I want to send. Actually, you can see we're having the get here. So I want to test this API with the get request. So I can just be able to just hit on the send, and let me see everything is okay. I hit on send, and whenever you see status of 200, which is okay, if you see 200, okay, that means your endpoint is working correctly. So we have the list of the books here, and that's great. That shows that our API endpoint is actually working correctly, and we don't have any bug in our code yet. Great. So that's how we test using the Thunder client, or maybe using Postman. So, but then this is not the main aim of this video. The main aim is to be able to send something to these books. Maybe if we want to add another book, or maybe a client want to add another book, how is he going to add it? Well, before then, let's check if we are able to get the home directory also. So let's send a new request to the home directory and see what is going to be the response from the API. So I can just go over to copy this endpoint and then replace it here. I don't need to be hard coding it one by one. And instead of slash books, we can just remove this, and we can just remove everything and let it to be localhost 5000, because we can see here we just only have the backslash, which means the home directory of the API. So I can just send, and we have the hello world here. That means everything is still working fine. We have test both the get endpoint we have in our code, and it's working totally the way I want it. Now let's try the post request. So we definitely want to send another book, or let me say a client definitely want to send another book into the list of books we already have. So now we can only use the post request to be able to send, and then app.post, and I can just say slash, possibly slash API and slash books, and that's the endpoint I want user to be using. And then I can just get the request and then response. As usual, you know how to write all the syntax and give it an arrow syntax, and then my curly braces. Let me add semicolon here. Great. So here the first thing I'm going to do is to just declare a variable of book. So I want to declare a new book now, just a single book, and set it equals to curly braces. Every book have an ID from the top, so I can just say ID, and I don't want to be hard coding the ID one by one, so I can just say books dot so that means those books at the top dot length. It should just calculate the length of those books in there, and then it should increment it by 1. So if you're having 10 books there, it will increment it by 1. That means plus 1 is going to be the 11th book. So the ID should be the list of those books up there, then plus 1. And that's just it for the ID. Now the next thing is the books. Every books up there have a name, so I can just say name should be equals to I will use colon, not just equals to. If you use equals to, it's going to give you an error. So let's say request dot body. So the request have a lot of properties, but we are going to use the body because the client is going to send this to us. What do we want the client to send? Request.body.name. So that means the client must send something and a name to us through his own interface. Then after the name have been sent, we just want to maybe push the new book to the arrays of books you have at the top. So I can just say books. You know basic JavaScript. I believe books.push. What we want to push, the new book we just created now is what we want to push in there. So, and then after this has been done, the book have been pushed to the list of the book, or let me say the book have been pushed to the self above. We can just response dot send. We just want to receive some response from the API that something is happening already. So I can just head over to put in a just simple message of maybe book added successfully, or any simple message to tell the client that he have already added the book as expected. That's just, and that will be fine. Nothing is bad with that. But then I don't want to just send this simple information for now. Even though it is the proper things to do, I just want to send the client the list of books back. So I'm expecting to see list of books, including the one I just added. So that's good. I can just terminate this terminal with Control C and rerun it again, because we need to. We are using the node index.js to run our terminal. We need to terminate and rerun it again. Oops, I go back to the terminal, not the port. And then let me open up a new request in my Thunder client, and let me just copy this endpoints again, because it is still the same thing. We are not supposed to be writing it singly again. So that's good. And after this here, instead of sending the you see we have API/books, and then I want to make sure I'm not sending a get request, but rather I want to send a post request, because now it's the client that's supposed to be sending something to the endpoint, not just getting something from the endpoint. And then we have just name. That's the only thing required from the body. If the ID is not required for now, it will automatically calculate the ID by itself, but the name is required. Let me go to the body tab, as you can see, and then you see it take us to the JSON. So if your own is not bringing you to this JSON part, make sure it is under JSON, because we are going to be sending JSON data. Let me make this bigger, because I'm not able to see this properly. But then you have a curly braces, and what do we want to send? We just want to send name, and then I can just do quote name and then another quote. After a semicolon, another quote. And what do I want to send? A name of a book. Actually, I have no much book on my head, but let me see. We have another name called the anatomy of maybe wealth. So I can just send anything. You can just literally send any name you want. It's not necessary to be anatomy of wealth. So this is what I want, and let me just send. And we have response, which is 200. We have status of 200, which is success. Whenever you see 200 status, make sure you know it is successful. And let me check if my new book have been added to the list. And yeah, we have another book, which we have an ID of 4, and then the name of the book as expected. As you can see up there, we only have 3 books, and then in our API response we are having 4 books. That means yes, my new book have been added successfully. And that's all for now. See you in the next one. Bye bye.